Until Then is an independent visual novel game developed by Polychroma Games, available on Steam and the PS5. It's a tale that combines high school drama with a dash of mystery and supernatural elements. This is the only game I've played this year so far that made me emotional. There will be some mild story structure spoilers, but I'll do my best to keep them at a minimum. That being said, I absolutely recommend this game. It has a gorgeous presentation, a stunning soundtrack, a memorable cast, and a near-accurate portrayal of adolescence, friendships, crushes, dreams, loneliness, grief, trauma, and forgiveness. Until Then uses pixel art blended with 3D backgrounds, shading, and pretty good lighting. The art style is something you'd see in most animes, but it never ventures too outlandish. Sure, the game has its moments, but it manages to keep the animation mostly grounded. What's more impressive is, whenever they have close-up shots, the characters' faces are still animated via sprites. As a result, it makes every character feel alive. What also feels alive is this game's setting. It takes place in Liamson, a fictional village set in the Philippines. Full disclosure, I've never been there, but I thought the devs captured the culture and environment splendidly. For instance, I never heard of Noche Buena prior to playing this. It's a Christmas Eve holiday originating from Spain that spread to other countries, including the Philippines. Without going too deep, it ties back into the feeling of loneliness and how it's good to have company around this time. Honestly, it's refreshing to see a high school setting that's not in America nor Japan. The soundtrack is magnificent. Most of the music used are piano arrangements of either original or classical songs. It gives the game a melancholic feeling with uncertainty of the future. It should be worth noting that at the time of writing this review, the composer, Patrick Naval, is currently working on getting the soundtrack out on streaming services, so whatever music you hear in the background is whatever I could find at the moment. I'll be supporting the official version when it releases, and I encourage everybody to do the same. Perhaps the best part of the presentation is how masterfully it captures being a high school student in the mid-2010s. We get to use their in-game version of Facebook and cycle between DMs and group chats on the fly. Even in said group chats, somebody could say something completely stupid or get ignored altogether. Seeing Mark type something only to delete and replace with another sentence couldn't be any more relatable. As a 2015 graduate, I can confidently say this is accurate to my high school experience. Since this is a visual novel, the gameplay is limited to just pressing a button to read through loads of well-written dialogue. If reading isn't your jam, this might not be for you. Fortunately, Polychroma made sure to incorporate plenty of minigames. Some of them include throwing darts, painting your art project, buttoning up your shirt, or passing change in the bus. While they are a nice break from all the walking and talking, I do wish some of them were more polished. One example is the piano minigame, which is basically DDR. The problem was, it was too difficult. It's really because of sloppy button timing. At first, I thought it was just my arrow keys being faulty, so I switched to my controller. The problem persisted, therefore I learned this wasn't a me problem. Piano plays a huge role in the game, and it's disappointing the minigame doesn't work as intended. Fortunately, there's a silver lining. At the time of this review, the developers did say they're going to work on fixing the timing, so fingers crossed. The premise of this game is, the world is recovering from a catastrophe called The Ruling, where several cataclysmic events occur simultaneously on a global scale. The protagonist, Mark, is a lazy, unfocused teenager who enjoys video games and playing piano. He goes through the motions of being a high school student, like procrastinating an assignment minutes before it's due, or spending time with his best friends, Kathy and Rido. After miraculously winging a book report, Mark's groupmate and class president, Louise, invites him to her chess match. There, she converses with Mark about strange occurrences of remembering things that didn't happen. Nevertheless, Mark continues on with his mundane life until he runs into Nicole, a student transferring because her hometown was destroyed by the ruling. Oddly enough, Mark gets a strong sense of deja vu despite meeting her for the first time. From then on, a ripple effect occurs. People start to disappear and memories become more unreliable. With his trajectory changed, Mark must now solve the mystery while also keeping his relationships from crumbling. Sadly, those sci-fi aspects take a back seat all the way until much later. The true beauty lies in its central themes of coming of age. Because they're teenagers, everybody faces their insecurities and figures out what to do with their life. Add a few drops of grief and loneliness, and what you get are compelling characters that change and mature over the course of the game. Mark is an excellent example of this. I did mention he starts off as an unfocused teenager who doesn't really apply his talent to anything, but his meeting with Nicole gives him a sense of direction and helps him confront his own inner demons. Towards the climax, tragedy occurs. This is where I believe the game teaches us an important lesson. Look out for your friends. They might be going through a lot and could be gone before you realize it. This story is beautiful. It made me cry in both lighthearted and dark scenes. Once I rolled credits, I was left with a powerful telling that... What? So, the game's not over yet. It pulls a near where even though you rolled credits the first time, the game still continues revealing new information. Remember how I said the sci-fi elements take a back seat? Well, now they have more attention, and this is where I do have slight issues with the story. The pacing can drag on at times, especially in the last third of the game. The weird parts don't exactly make sense and left me confused in some areas. I really wish this had more presence in the first third of the game because it felt more like a subplot. As strictly a mystery story, I don't think it's anything to write home about, which is why I'd suggest treating this as a tale about growing up that's enhanced with said sci-fi moments. Thankfully, it didn't derail my immersion, because the narrative threads culminate into Mark's internal struggles and how he overcomes them. Once the actual credits rolled, the game left me with a different message. There isn't a definitive way to deal with grief, but one thing they all have in common is forgive yourself. We're only human, and it's okay to make mistakes. Until Then is a game with a simple art style, but has realistic depictions of what it means to grow up and deal with traumatic events. That's probably why I connected with this title more than others this year. It gave me an experience about life. I really enjoyed the pixelated graphics and simple art style. I appreciated the Filipino culture and setting here. I adored the story and how it handles its messages. But most importantly, I love the characters. Part of me was glad that the story went on after the first credits because I just didn't want to say goodbye to the world yet. Which is ironic because one of the themes is about letting go. The year isn't over yet, and there's still plenty of games I'm looking forward to, but I think I can confidently say this. Until Then is one of the most emotionally raw games I had the pleasure to play.